Hi there, Strange. Nice to
Morning,
see
Ed.
you.
Nice to see you too. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great.
Good, good.
So the beat goes on here.
Doesn't it though? Yeah, I see a
Yeah.
couple of more invites from you. I've got to respond to them.
Yeah, so you know what? I'm just loading up my schedule because it's getting a little crazy. Hi, Ron.
Hello, Ed. Great to be with
Welcome
you.
again. Welcome again. And Ken Lloyd.
Thank you. Ken, good to be back with you.
Same to you, Ron.
Ron, thanks for sending me your notes here. I can't open it. I'm on my phone. I can't do two things at once on my screen though.
Oh,
So
okay.
because it's in Canva and I haven't opened that yet. I mean I haven't joined it yet.
Okay, no, I sent it to you as a Word document, just so you know.
Oh yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so I um
N-
download.
Now, what I can do, Ed, is send it to you to your regular email. I sent it, I
Oh yeah.
replied to your
Okay.
invitation.
Yeah, good. Okay, thank you. Yeah, if you don't mind just emailing it,
Sure.
because then I can open it up on this.
Yep.
Okay. Hi, Christian.
Hey,
Nice
Christian.
to see you, Ken. Nice to see you,
Hey,
Ron.
Christian.
Hi, Ed.
Welcome
Oh,
again. Welcome
welcome
again.
again.
Yeah, I know. So um I'm I'm planning on being as of now anyway, still planning on going to Washington the week
hmm
of 21. So it's only 2 weeks, 3 weeks away. So I'm trying to line up a number of programs once I get brainstorm on what to do with it and space them out. So that's what
hmm
that's that's why I've been doing all this blitz.
Aha. So
The
you
end of the
have
year
a
is coming
stack.
really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm inundated with great ideas. They're not mine, they're someone else's, but what I'm doing is adapting it to what we're doing and then trying to grow the audience. And that's the purpose of all that. So are you guys okay with me doing this AI recording? It's kind of a pain in the neck, and but
Yeah.
I think it could be useful for review a week from now or 2 weeks
Yeah.
from now.
Doesn't bother me.
I'm
Yeah,
Uh,
fine.
Oh, okay,
fine.
good.
Totally up to you, Ed.
Yeah.
I'm
So
not
you know
sure why
what?
there's two of them.
Yeah, I
Sometimes
don't
there's
know.
two and sometimes there's one.
I know. It's just I think I may have joined too many things. So, oh, here's Stephen. Good. Good. And I'm trying to grow the audience by inviting you to consider inviting someone who you know who might like this thing.
Working on
And
it.
it's all complimentary. I'm trying to sell sponsorships and memberships rather than sell
Stephen.
by tickets. Okay. I think it's a cleaner way of doing it. Stephen, hello again.
Good morning, Squire. How are you?
It is great. Good, good. So have you noticed, I know you're up early like I am, but it was like 6:45 my time here before it got light out. Was it that way
Yes.
in Phoenix?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I was maybe 10 minutes earlier or something, but yeah, it's taking its time coming up in the morning.
I know. It's so strange. All of a sudden it's getting winter.
hmm
That's why you get daylight savings time at the end of the month.
hmm
Yeah, I think November 4, which is just before Election Day or right after.
Just before.
Yeah. So, Ron, are you guys being impacted by the hurricane?
I'm going to give you a qualified no to that. It's been raining for 3 consecutive days, but it's
Mm.
drizzle type rain, certainly
Uh,
nothing of squall or anything of a hurricane strength.
no, good, good. It's
Good to
just
hear.
terrible danger or damage.
Yes, we have
Okay.
relatives, distant relatives in Asheville, North Carolina,
Mhm.
and yeah, it is really bad there.
Yeah, it's strange.
And Ed, I sent to you moments ago my talking points.
Okay, I see it just came in. All right, and somebody's coming in? No? Okay.
The second bot.
Yeah, the second one. Okay, Ron. pardon me for a second until I get this. The Cooper culture. Wow, I like that.
And add the slide you sent. I pasted it into PowerPoint. So if you, for whatever reason, can't share it, I could do that for us.
I cannot do it. I mean, I could do it, but you're better at it than me, believe me.
Okay. Just if you want
So,
me to, I'd be happy to do that.
yeah, but not yet, okay?
No, no, of course.
Yeah, okay, good. All right.
Oh, there's Gary.
Yeah, I know. Where is that thing? God.
Hi, Gary.
You know,
Hi,
I can't
Gary.
I can't
Good morning.
Ron, I do have it, but on the phone I can't seem to bring it up.
Okay.
So I'm
What?
gonna ask you to, if you don't mind, when you're ready, just upload it into my screen share, and then we could all read it together.
All right. Or Ed, if you want, I can send it to you as normal text in an email.
That would be good too. But are you okay with uploading it?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Okay, not yet. Gary, welcome.
Nice to be welcomed, Ed. Good to see you, sir. Good to see everyone else. Good morning,
Gary
good evening.
Gary Sanger, meet Ron Cooper if you haven't already done that.
No, we
Mr.
haven't.
Cooper.
Hello, Gary.
Pleasure. Nice to see you.
Good to
Gary
be with you.
Sanger has been on a program now, I think 3 years, and he's a long time, one of the original members of the Global Press Club. Thank you very much, my friend. And but his real job is working at the seven-figure plus level of recruitment, executive search, and counseling. So Ron Cooper is executive for many years, and his background, and Gary, you'd like this, I know, is as a jet fighter pilot, the original Maverick. I think Tom Cruise role was written about this guy here. So I welcome. Ron, just so you know, I was an Army medic during Vietnam, but I was stateside. I was trained as an OR tech by Harvard Medical School
All right.
surgeons.
Ed, I will tell you just very briefly, we fighter pilots are of the nature that we like to be in control, but during our annual flight physical, I will tell you that 3 or 4 of the words that we hate to hear are assume the position. We know that we're going to get a finger where we don't want it.
This is not recorded. No, wait a minute. The AI is recording everything. Be
Oh,
careful.
no.
There's your reputation, Ron.
Well,
Yes.
okay, so this is quickly descending into a locker room meeting, which is fine with me. But
Well, Ron, that is about a 30-foot cord, isn't it, with a camera on it, and you
Yes.
do assume the position. I am sorry, but what'd you see up there? You know that those are famous lines.
Yes.
Did you just spit on your coffee there, Ed?
uh, ruling, I don't know. I think we better start this show. Okay. Oh my God, it's recording. Oh, well, this is Ed, and I'm in San Diego, and you're, as you can see, in the newsroom today, Global HR Business. We're talking about, what are we talking about today?
Teams.
Teams, thank you very much. And by the way, there'll be another Teams meeting on 18 October, Friday morning. I've just sent, I think, all of you and others an invitation to participate in that. And I attached, in that is a link to the website that I was building this morning with graphics courtesy of others to use as a base for that discussion. Okay, so I did previously send out a link to website for this show, and there were 2 slides there, which again, I cannot bring up, but if somebody else would like to do that, I'm very happy to allow that. So Ken Lloyd, Dr. Ken Lloyd, thank you very much. Do you
Thank
happen
you.
to have the front cover of the new book, the updated Dummies book?
Not yet. It's coming out in December. The final edits are just going through on the cover, and I'll have it. I should have it for you and for our viewing hopefully over the next
Good.
couple of weeks, but yeah,
Okay,
moving along.
great.
Thank you.
Great. So my friend Christian, thank you very much. And
You're
I've
welcome.
gotten follow-up messages from Natalie and Israel,
Oh,
and
great.
they seem to like it and they want to come back.
Yeah,
But
Natalie
I haven't.
definitely wants to come back.
So this is all about Gen Z guys, just so you know. And these are smart Gen Zs and good talkers also. Engaged,
Mhm,
immersed. What did you call
mhm,
that? Correct?
mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So very good. Gary Singer, tell us what you're into the past week. I keep inviting you to things and you keep declining them. That because you're probably working for a living.
Well, I try to do that. I try to do that. I was still pausing on the idea of take the position. I was taken back to too many times. You know, if you think of a company, you think of a corporate meeting, and really, I think too many times that company forgets who it is. Maybe it doesn't even know who it is. I find it frustrating. I'm in a, in a situation that I'll speak pretty, you know, pretty unclearly about. But this company's trying to figure out who it is. This company has been in business for 10 plus years. And I think it's a victim of trying to have so many opportunities that it can't pick one or two or three and get focused on it and do an action plan against it. So when I think of a team, I've had the pleasure of working for some real big corporate companies in my past. I grew up with a little company called American Hospital Supply Corporation way back in the 70s and 80s. And we were one of the leaders in the field. And we had, we were a Fortune 150, 200 company way back when. I was a 30-something executive that really didn't know what I didn't know, but our CEO of that company at the time, Mr. Carl Bays, long since passed, God bless him. We were so good at being focused and taking no prisoners. We always, always, always reported into the customer. And so as we within our 28 divisions, as we that made products from A to Z, we knew what we were, we knew what we were not, and we always were zeroed in on what that customer wanted. So my simple point in all of this, we found, because we had a lot of youth, we hired by the hundreds off the college campuses from the very best. We routinely repeated who we were within that division. We repeatedly talked about what was important to us. And I find that those fourth grade basics oftentimes get skipped. And in a setting where you're all being measured, you're all trying to make quarterly results, I think back to the basics is really something that I highly, highly favor.
Ron, what do you think about that?
Gary, thank you, Ed. Gary, if there is an opportunity to collaborate with you, I would thoroughly enjoy that. I will tell you what you just described is not at all atypical. There are some companies who say, yep, we know exactly where we are, but then there's some who say, nope, we need a breakthrough. I'm going to use that term. But I talk on purpose, vision, and goals, and exactly what that constitutes. And it is a matter of setting the global goals, but then each member of your team, the various departments, could be the marketing, sales, and so forth. They each have their own jargon, and that's fine. You have your own jargon, but we have to know exactly where we fit with the overall company goals, where we're going, and we need to be talking that language, not just on a plaque. We've got to know. It works into meetings that sometimes hour or two meeting. Boy, what did we just talk about? That was a waste of time for me. But without dominating time, Gary, I'd love to get with you.
It'd be my pleasure. It absolutely would be my pleasure. So as you look at what a company's purpose is, I'm in several instances where there are significant raises, capital raises that are, in their game plan and trying to make it happen. And as we've gotten advice and help from people that do this for a living, you know, they put the decks together, they put the purpose together, they get this all put together. I keep finding these people saying, why should I care what you do? Why should I care what the company really does? And I think as you get back to those basics, I mean, I recall I had a 10, 12-year time period where I was with Citibank and Security Pacific, both of the leaders in the field. Citibank especially was big time into technology. And as we hired a new executive, we had a bunch of good old boys. And they were boys, and they were good, and they were old, and they were quite white. We had the situation where we hired a new lady that was going to head up an entire section of this. And I and the exec in charge knew who that person was. She hadn't met the rest of them yet. And we're there in Midtown somewhere, getting a meeting started. At the crack of 9:01, she walked over to the door and locked it. So some of the good old boys that were routinely late couldn't get into that meeting. She had been there for a half hour, and at least a handful of those guys said, hey, ma'am, get me some coffee. So she got a bunch of coffee for a whole bunch of folks. And then as we started the meeting, I introduced them to their new boss.
Classic.
And I said, hey, any of you guys need some more coffee?
You rubbed it in.
Well, hell yes. You know, come on, you know, you want to live in an environment where you think you're running it and you're not. I don't know. You really get then into the purpose. People weren't late for the next meetings.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you suddenly had equality and diversity really being practiced. I've got 100 of those stories as you think back where you were, what you did, and you know how you got things done. Again, Ron, it would be my pleasure to do that. And with other gentlemen on this call, Mr. Howard, have you written any books yet this morning?
I finished editing one yesterday, but you know, my first book was on corporate image management, which goes right to the heart of what you're talking about. What is the purpose? What is the vision? What is the goals? And so one thing I would offer unsolicited advice, Gary, would be for your organization is the first thing to look at are they serving the same customer throughout the organization? Or are they serving different customers? One time I consulted with an organization in Asia. It sounds similar to what you're facing, they were struggling with. And it was compounded by the fact that they were originally a family-owned company and were now trying to go public. And we ended up working with them and dividing the company into 3 different entities because they had 3 different customer bases that did not overlap. I mean, occasionally there was a little overlap, but most of it was 3 very distinct customer bases with 3 different product service areas. And so we kept a kind of a name that kind of an overlay name, if you will, that think of a GE strategy, like you had GE engines and GE financial services, and that we created the 3 different entities, but all linked together through the name, the nomenclature. So just something to think about.
Yes,
I like all these games to have scoreboards, right? I mean, I'm a sports nut. I'm pretty happy now that even in spite of our couple $1 billion payroll, Dodgers are going to move into the next round, even though most of our starters are, you know, there with wounded wings. But when you think of a scoreboard and you think of those customers, what are you trying to get done for them? And I'll tell you one of the most frustrating things, and I had 25 years in my corporate life, 20 of those as a senior HR person. You go talk to HR folks, and as we're trying to hire them, we're a retained search firm, been doing that for 25 years. Go talk with a staff person who doesn't know his numbers, or her numbers. Talk with somebody that doesn't know the size or scope of the business. And so as you find someone like that, you know, sorry, I think I'm busy. I can't talk to you anymore. Get the numbers, get the perspective, and get the scoreboard. Ron, you're smiling on that.
Well, Gary, I am right on target with you. Everybody on the team has to be all in we may be serving X number of very different customers, but I know my role on this team. I know what I contribute. And if I don't know that, maybe I'm not the right person, or maybe it's a function of leadership. I'm not sure what it is, but I need for you to know if I'm on your team and you're the leader, I need to know what the company goal is. I need to know the goal of the person we're serving. And I need to know if I'm contributing to that. In other words, I have a trait, a talent that I know I can contribute to that. And if I don't, then I'll tell you, I don't think I can contribute anything. I'm not the right person here. But I've got to know exactly where I fit. And on to use a sports analogy, let's just say we're talking football terms, I'm the right guard. Hey, I'm only one of 11 persons, but I know what my one of 11, what, 9%? I know what my 9% contribution is, and I'm going to be 100% into that 9%. So, Gary, I can get fired up on this.
I wish you would.
What's next? Wait, Stephen, thank you very much for sticking with me and this program over the years, despite your obviously Zoom forward into your new career of frequent publishing and speaking and coaching. So what is coming up in the new year for you that you might like to use this microphone to announce?
Well, if I survive that long, it'll be the human mindset concept, which is coming out in about 2 weeks' time, I think. I hope to see the revised cover today. I've got the first draft of the cover. The book's pretty much finished. I've had some very good beta readers, including Christian, reading through it, getting feedback from them. I'm tweaking a few things. Christian,
chapter 4.
well, Christian, thank goodness, has caught a couple of glaring errors in the book. Things that as a writer, you try editing your own work. It's like being a lawyer representing yourself. It's stupid. But so I'm getting some great help on it. But yeah, human mindset is a concept I have of trying to spread the word of also Ron's a beta reader too. Sorry, Ron, I forgot that. Just trying to get people to be aware of how they interact with each other and to understand the emotional wake that we create with the people that we interact with on even if it's an occasional basis or a daily basis, and to be intentional about those emotional wakes that we create.
Ken Lloyd?
Yeah, no, it's obviously very interesting. Love the concept of humanity, Stephen. You know that. I think it's just absolutely terrific, and certainly what's so important in organizations today. It's interesting. I sat in at a meeting another consulting firm ran, and all these topics were focused on how to function more effectively as an organization, and the word customer never was said. Yeah. It was all, it was so filled, there's a big time consulting firm in there, all filled with buzzwords. We have to look at our swim lanes, and we have to do the restart, and the juice isn't worth the squeeze. And, a lot of stuff, probably some of the idioms that I think about it that were in the back of your excellent book on partnering with American businesses. But let's get down to it. The concept CRM, not in there. And I'm thinking, that's all fine, but it's sort of losing the whole idea of where we're going, who we're trying to serve, what is our vision, and all this inward focusing that I felt was just missing the mark. And yet the conversation went on, the discussion went on, and I was just sitting there literally counting the buzzwords. Isn't that terrible? But that's all that I was hearing. And I'm thinking, and I did not jump into it. That was not my role. I gave some feedback afterwards, but it's kind of difficult, but engaged in some self-restraint and just said, let's really talk about what we're trying to do in these meetings, where this entity is really trying to go. And as you said, what vision do we have, and what are our values, and what are our goals, and how are we really going to be getting there? It's not going to be off of cliches and trite expressions and simplified wording that just is nothing more than perhaps a little colorful. And that's what I experienced here. So listening and looking at the bigger picture And again, this customer focus is so important, particularly these days. And when we have goals, we have to also have with them agility. The world, the marketplace is changing so fast. Look what happened in a year with AI. So companies, yeah, we have to have goals, but we have to be ready to look at shorter term goals and the ability to adjust and adapt and be flexible in order to meet them, or we're going to be standing there holding yesterday's goods, and they're just not going to be worth anything.
Yes, Christian.
So first of all, Ken, next time you bring a bingo card, because now you know what terms to look for. But I really what I wanted to say is, when I hear all of you is, we're also indirectly talking about silos, and the idea that maybe it's not even clear anymore what the vision is, or in other words, the vision is something else to everybody else. And maybe before we even go to where Ken was, we should just ask and quiz people, hey, what do you think the vision is for the business, and see what we come up with, and then try to put all this together and try to find out who the customer is. Because in a silo, very often the customer is different people or different entities, and everybody's just working towards their one little goal or towards their one customer, and doesn't even communicate with the other parts of the enterprise. So that was something that struck me, and I've tried to overcome this in my years as a manager and leader, to just tell people, hey, pick up the phone and call this lady from accounting, get to meet her, try to find out what each of you is doing for the company. Because that's Ron's point, right? If you're in a team and you don't know what the other person is doing, the person may know what they're doing, but if the other person doesn't know what the other person is doing, it's very easy to get into silos, and it's very easy to lose track of, to Ken's point, the customer and what the whole enterprise is really about.
So we're talking about stakeholders who aren't communicating then, Stephen.
And then the
Yeah.
vision goes down the drain.
Yeah. And Ken, I'm going to suggest, if you ever go back into that meeting with those folks, is and if they do bring up CRM, tell them to forget CRM, because I don't know a single customer who wants their relationship managed. Customer relationship management is such an internal phrase. It doesn't focus on the customer. And what I did when I was doing a lot of marketing consultancy is turn that around to call it customer retention management. How are you going to retain your customers? But no customer wants a relationship managed. Just like I say, nobody wakes up in the morning and wants to be managed by their boss. And Gary, going back to your dilemma there, here's another tip I have for you that worked very well when I was in that, doing a lot of that kind of corporate branding, corporate image, corporate visioning, is I would ask both the customers and the senior executives and the staff to answer this question. If you were a car company, what car company would you be? Because if you ask people to tell them, what is our vision, they'll rattle off what they think you want to hear. But what kind of car company are you? And if they said Volvo, that told me they were concerned about safety. They were conservative. They were risk averse. If they said they're Ferrari, man, they wanted to go, take risk and try and hit the home run, and invest in the next AI of the world. If they told me they were BMW, well, they were talking about performance and power and outdoing their competitors. So you can get a lot of insights by asking a question like that, to really understand what they think that company is all about. So just another tip for you.
That is an excellent, very relatable and understandable analogy. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, it worked. I mean, I've done it in industries from the steel industry to tourism to aviation. I don't know, medical devices. I have to think about everyone I worked with over the years, and created the company image for them. So yeah, it works well.
I'm struck with your suggestion of Volvo. And how many years ago was it in the world of safety, and you got your family taken care of and everything's cool, and they go lie about all their statistics?
Well, they're not as bad as Volkswagen. Volkswagen was the one that got hit by the EPA. Volkswagen is the one that cheated the Clean Air Act in the United States, and it's cost them $32 billion in 9 years. So I don't know the background of mobile safety
Well,
statistics.
I grew up in the healthcare industry, and
Okay.
in that time period, we had the tainted pills. And I recall, one of the stellar companies in the field is J&J, was J&J, is J&J. And how they dealt with it was very straight on. And I think they would be given an awful lot of credit, for the sealed bottles,
Yep.
tamper-proof, etc. They walked their talk. And when it was tough, they dealt with it. And so as I think about stuff that can kill you, my goodness, we better look for that, work for that customer. I think also, I'm going to take a tangent here. If you look at your company and you're on the inside and you look about how you're rewarded, how you were fired, how you're promoted, oftentimes those are in conflict. And if you think about what your scorecard is, the buzzword consulting environment you spoke about, I recall the people that are in the elevator celebrating their win, with a pitch that they just made, and somebody in that elevator was part of the pitch company that received it. And these guys and gals were talking about what car they were going to buy and what vacation they were going to take because of what they had won. And they found out later that day that their firm didn't get it. Well, I don't know what I'm talking about here, except if you're really walking in the shoes of the customer, you absolutely are going to take care of them on Sunday morning or late Saturday night or whenever the need is. I think those of us that are in the consulting business, let's make sure our teams are rewarded for what it is that our customers want, rather than just what that quarterly earnings has to have.
Yeah, well, the old rule is you never talk in the elevator in the client's building. But here's a scorecard for you, Gary. You talk about collaboration. I'll never forget this. I was talking with a senior vice president in a technology company, and we were talking about collaboration. He literally looked at me and said, "I will collaborate with anybody in this organization until the end of August. End of September." And I said, "What?" We were talking like in February. I said, "Why is that?" And he says, "Because my bonus is based on my individual results, and all my individual results will get hammered home in the last quarter of the year. I'm not collaborating with anybody." And he was senior vice president, headed up their technology research infrastructure in a Fortune 100 company. And
Ron, how do you fix something like that? That's just awful.
Well, no, Gary, and that's a very good point. Things that you have said. I want to go back just very, very briefly. That meeting time. When I tell you a meeting is going to start at 9 o'clock, the meeting starts at 9 o'clock. We're not going to wait 3, 4, or 5 minutes because stragglers come in, because stragglers do come in. They know the meeting's not going to start at 9 o'clock, but there's an aspect of discipline. Okay, that's military term. Some people don't like that term discipline, but no, when I tell you a meeting's going to start at 9 o'clock, it's going to start at 9 o'clock. And if I tell you it's going to be 30 minutes, I'm going to do everything I can to structure it within 30 minutes and not keep you a bunch of overtime. But in the context of, okay, am I the right hire for this company? I will tell you that this goes into a much larger topic. But I train people to interview. And so I interview the company. And Gary, you may not be the right company because I'm going to interview you. I came for you to interview me, but I need to know if I am going to be a good fit for your company. And I have the right to say, Gary, thank you, but I don't think I'm the best fit for your company. And so I do want to know what your culture is, and I want you to know what my strengths are. And I hope there's a good match, but I want to leave this interview knowing, yep, there is a good match, or no, there is not, because I'm in it for the long term. As Stephen was saying, that, well, I'm only good for collaboration for the next couple of weeks. Well, yeah, that's very near-term, short-term thinking. I want to be with long-term thinkers. And a whole lot more that follows that, but that's a lot of where I am.
Ron,
Thank
what's
you.
the most challenging job you've been in? Can you tell us that story?
Well, so there's a longer story, but I'd say to some degree, being a commander of an F-4 squadron, the Air Force calls them squadron, and boy, you've got some very strong Type A or high D disc type personalities. And you got to be very careful the way you work with those people. I mentioned in this call one other time that one of my commanders in the past said we fighter pilots tend to eat our young. And that means that, yeah, I'm a very, very strong personality. And boy, I'm going to tell you, you need to clean up your act and, different things like that. Well, I can demoralize people. Even a very, very strong-willed person, I can demoralize a person. And particularly if I use my rank to try to create some sort of hierarchy within the team. If I have some kind of words on a business card and I speak in a meeting and my overarching tone is, well, there's a hierarchy here that you underlings are. And if I come across like that, I'm gonna have some very short-term team-oriented people because, man, you're not inspiring me to do anything. You have a very threatening tone, and all that is very, very short-term. But one of the challenging positions, Gary, is talking with people who are very strongly opinionated, and you want to make sure that do everything you can to make sure that we are all united on the same team. And it is a matter of matching them. I use that term, personality styles and so forth. I recognize your strong-willed personality, and I'm going to just bring up one trait of Stephen's book, the term loneliness. Gosh, can a bullheaded guy that goes around Mach 3 be lonely at any time? Oh yeah, yeah. How well can I see through that veneer? I have to be able to see through it.
So you've developed a checklist that you're looking at, or something doesn't fit or doesn't sound right.
It is a form of a checklist, Ed, but I'm gonna use Stephen's term. It's a mindset. And okay, the mindset is a process it's a thinking process, but it's a mindset. And that mindset is, I want a fully functional team. And I have a pretty good concept of what that fully functional team looks like. I know and I've used the term here before in a sports context, but it's a brotherhood. And I don't mean that as a gender specific term, but when we have a brotherhood of we're united in our thoughts, yep, we can function extremely well. But that doesn't happen just because I want it to happen. We've got to be very intentional.
Let's go to some. Oh, please go right ahead.
No, Ed, please go ahead.
I was just going to say, let's go to the slide section here because we're running out of time. Gary, you first, though.
Well, I want to share a quick story. I'll try to make it in less than a minute. Early in my business career, I was put into a HR recruiting role into a 1,000-person manufacturing operation that was having turnover approaching 150 to 200%. They were able to say, look, let's put a common denominator, screen people in, and try to change this. We had dramatic change on that in a few months. I then had a task where, because I was a rookie, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, quite frankly. But as we were doing this, we were hiring a new VP of manufacturing for 10 to 12 plants, several thousand people across the US and Mexico and Puerto Rico. Again, this is American Hospital Supply Corporation. This guy had already been interviewed once. He had a tentative offer. He was coming back for one more round of interviews. They wanted the executive team to see him one more time. My boss, a manager level, said, look, go make sure he gets there on time, finds the bathroom, gets fed, gets on his cab, and is gone. At the end of that, they said, look, what did everybody say? Well, I have my little checklist there of all the executives he saw. Ken, my boss, said, well, what about the guard? What about Joe at the guard check? And what about Sylvia at the reception desk? At the switchboard. So this dates this. I think it was pre-electricity. they said, look, let's go talk to the CEO and let's give that feedback. And the first thing they asked was, what did Joe at the guard shack say? And what did Sylvia at the reception at the switchboard? Because we had several thousands of folks in these dozen plants. Gary, what did you find out? Said Gordon, the CEO. And Gordon, the CEO, was really intimidating. He said, well, what do you think on this? And I said, look, I've only been here for a few months. He said, no, I don't want to hear that. He said, what do you think we should do with this gentleman? I said, I think we can do better. Joe at the guard shack thought he was shallow, didn't give a damn about blue collar folks. Sylvia was even worse in saying, look, he barely even acknowledged I was alive, barely even acknowledged me as a person. Gordon said, we can do better. Tell this guy we don't want him. We'll go find somebody that really does care about us. That lesson for me, is now many decades later. And I walked that. I'm a farm boy originally from Idaho. Nobody could outwork me. But in the world of blue collar, working with white collar and having common respect, that's been a huge lesson for me.
Well done. And again, the world will hear this. So let's go to Christian. Please upload that slide and take us through that, and then we'll go to Ron. So I couldn't get a high res of that.
Yeah,
Could you increase that? Yeah. So
I think
this
that's as big as it's going to get.
Yeah. So take us through just in the color zone there, and then you could see that better than I could on what it says on either side. This is the idea of what makes a team work and what doesn't work. And this is also going to be in the October 18 teams discussion. So start us off, please.
So pyramid, obviously, right? So at the bottom is the absence of trust. That's in red. And the way that this is structured is on the left, you have the high-performing teams, and on the right, you have the dysfunctional teams, to make it very stark. So it's very black and white here. And if there's an absence of trust, then it's a pyramid. So all the other stories here won't work. It won't get any higher than that lower foundation level. What does what is in the high performing teams column here? It's a safe environment to speak up. Gary, you just mentioned Gordon, who was intimidating, and intimidated you in a moment, but then made it clear he wanted to hear what you had to say. So that's that. Team members help each other. That's something that was extremely important to me. Ron, you were talking about the team members know what strengths they bring to the table. I wanted my team to learn from each other, because otherwise I would have to train them on every single thing, and I couldn't possibly do that. And it would have been very one-sided. Leveraging strengths for the team, that's what comes out of what I just said. And then on the dysfunctional team side, you hesitate to ask for help. Why? Because you're intimidated. You conceal your weaknesses. Why? Because you're going to get yelled at if you show them. And you dread meeting and avoid team members. That's a consequence of all that, right? You're going to be, there we go, lonely. The lonely person, and I think that's absolutely true. The lonely person is going to be the one that's so alpha that they don't have any friends. Nobody wants to hang out and have a beer with them. All right, then a fear of conflict. And Ed, stop me when you feel you want to stop me. Fear of conflict will be, all right, you have trust, but you still don't want to speak up that much. So you confront problems and issues quickly in a high-performing team, but you go around the problems in a dysfunctional team. You don't confront the issues and behaviors, and there's a lack of transparency. Why? Because, again, you don't want to get yelled at. On the next one is the lack of commitment. We talked about that too. That's the people who don't really care. We already brought that up. It's also maybe because of an ambiguous direction and priorities. We talked about that too. That's the vision or lack thereof. There's the same discussions again and again. And I'm speculating here, but maybe Ken, that was not just one single instant, but that's how they make their living, these people. They have discussions that are like that. On the high-performing teams, though, you have to buy in and alignment on common objectives. Ron, that was your point. The clarity on direction and priorities, we all agree on that. And therefore, the team members are highly engaged, right? Because they're unified. Even better, avoidance of accountability. Well, you should avoid that, right? So poor performers are managed and held accountable. Stephen and I, we've talked about this many times, the coaching aspect. Ken, we did too. You have to have accountability. So you set certain goals that have to be reached, and it has to be equitable. The same standards have to apply to everyone. Otherwise, you start playing favors. On the avoidance of accountability in the dysfunctional team, you have, that's when it falls apart. Missed deadlines, key deliverables, poor performance is tolerated, and creates an environment of resentment and hopelessness because nobody's making any progress really. And leadership is weak or playing favorites. And then the inattention to results, here we go with the customer again. And that's the top, that's the end result of all of what's gone wrong before, will be the poor performance and results. Gary, your quarterly results, they will be impacted. The team turnover, 150 to 200%. I don't even know how that works, but it must have been a revolving door. I don't even know how that math works out. But on the high-performing team side, you have extraordinary and returning performance and team-based results, because as in the layer below that and the one below that, you have common objectives, and there's no more poor performers, because the poor performers are now, well, they even either managed out or better, they're being coached properly and held accountable, so they turn into better performers. And the team will be highly motivated. I think that's, again, stark. It's very black and white, but it's very helpful to trigger all kinds of discussions. Thanks, Gary. I did this impromptu, by the way. I didn't really think about it too much.
You did great. So thank you very much. And so let me ask Stephen and Ken. Ken, why didn't the CEO stop that game playing of special slogans and phrases rather than just talk plainly? I mean, was it a locker room kind of atmosphere in there that everybody knows each other, so they try to one up them? I would be totally lost from that conversation.
Yeah, in my conversations afterwards about how the meeting went, we talked about that. And I think he was more influenced by the fact that this is a big name consulting firm, extremely expensive. And rather than telling them how to run the meeting and interfere, let them do it, because they just came in with this great aura around them. And to me, it was just, frankly, a waste of time and money. It's interesting looking at conflict in the pyramid. Conflict is actually a good thing. I mean, we don't want a battle or a war, but the ability to disagree, to present different points of view, that really shows so much. It shows interest and concern and compassion about what's going on, and that openness and trust. I know in marriage and family counseling, if a couple comes in and we never fight, we never have any disagreements, and that's an immediate sign to the counselor of a problem, because they've lost their passion, they've lost their interest. It's better to have people disagreeing. That's how we get creativity. That's how we get further along, instead of everyone sitting there like sycophants and bobbleheads agreeing with everything. Even I read a book about Harry Truman. This is a while back. It's not when I was reading, but there was a book about him. And he purposely put people in his cabinet that he disagreed with in order to have that kind of creativity and growth and openness, and really show I'm open to all ideas. Let's put everything on the table. So I think, again, all of these 5 factors are so important, but certainly conflict. And there was none in that meeting that you just mentioned that I described. No conflict. Everyone's sitting like this. and they came out with nothing other than nodding when, did you get to spend a lot of money? Yeah. And did you waste a lot of time? Yeah. Other than that, was it useful? Well, and I held up the mirror and said, let's talk further about what we want to do. We bring in these high talent individuals from the top of the organization, males and females. It's not a bunch of guys, not a locker room. Let's make this really productive. And how do we do it? And frankly, by applying the kinds of factors that are in this pyramid.
Stephen?
Yeah, thanks, Ken. That's good. And thanks, Christian. Those, that's Patrick Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team. And, actually, I was using that at that high technology company when that senior vice president, when we went through this pyramid, and he says, well, I'll collaborate until the end of September. So that prompted his comment, actually. But, one of the things I've often done in those kind of situations, and, look, I lived in Asia for 21 years, and the problem is exasperated there because of the hierarchical nature of organizations, the respect for elders, younger people not speaking up, is I would do so much pre-work on these sessions. I would get people's inputs beforehand, like that question about what kind of car company would you be, and then I would share that data in the meeting with the executive, so that would stimulate the conversation, because otherwise you're going to get, I think it was General Patton who basically said something like, if I've got a room of 10 people and they all agree with me, I don't need 9 of them, the sort of thing. I'm paraphrasing that, I don't remember the exact quote, but so yeah, you got to get away from that group think. You've got to remember that the old trite sayings that pearls come from pressure in the oyster. No, pearls come from friction in the oyster, and diamonds come from pressure in the coal mine. So you've got to put a little bit of pressure in there, and you've got to have a little bit of friction. As Ken said, conflict can be positive. Cognitive conflict is highly positive. Personality conflict is highly negative, and a good facilitator, a good leader knows how to divide and conquer those and utilize cognitive conflict for the best of the organization.
Thank you. Let's go to Ron.
Steve, I want to correct what I said before. Your comment about VW, correct. My comment about Volvo was not. I withdraw, I retract.
Gary, I wrote a book called Leadership Lessons from the Volkswagen Saga. So I felt fairly confident in what I was saying.
Yeah, I really love this topic about getting people to constructively disagree with what the boss says. And as the boss sets that tone, I mean, I've seen situations back when I was on the other side of the desk, get an idea where it was a significant strategic decision, and whoever the sponsor of it was, go find the strongest person in the room to take it on and try to break it down and see if it was still a correct one. And so as you take your name, you take your endorsement off of it, and you try to see what's best for the enterprise, that executive, he or she, that can truly participate, express an opinion about something, and then have somebody take it on to go kill it, because it does not make sense. Have that person be praised and rewarded and maybe promoted and paid a lot. The person that dominates it, the example that says, look, 9 of you agree with me, why do I need you? I absolutely love that.
The other technique, Gary, is if you've got anybody in that room of yours who's an introvert and doesn't like to speak up, or who's been shot down because it's not a psychologically safe environment and doesn't want to speak up. One of the things is to limit choices. So it's the old story, like, you ask your spouse, where you want to go to dinner, and they always say wherever you want to go, because they don't want to make a decision. But if you ask your spouse, your significant other, would you prefer tonight or tomorrow night to go out for steak, Mexican, or Chinese food? You limit their choices. They'll say, well, I'd prefer Chinese food. We had steak last week or something like that. So same thing in that corporate setting. If you can get to a point where you can limit options and get people to speak up. Sorry, Christian, I don't know if I interrupted you. I did.
No, not at all. Sorry. Go ahead. Go on.
No, I'm said my piece.
Oh, okay.
Stephen,
Okay.
it depends on which of those restaurants has the ball game on, right? Isn't that the answer?
No, in my case, sir, it's which one's serving the red wine, and red wine doesn't go
Good.
with either Chinese food or Mexican food. So
You just gave me the cue I wanted, because I was
Yes.
going to talk about wine. And I don't even know that much about wine. But one thing I do know is when you have wine tastings, they may be blind. You may not know what you're drinking, and you definitely may not know how much their bottle cost. And what I'm trying to say with this analogy is don't go for the labels. You know, Ken talked about how much money they spend on having these consultants in the room. So it's got to be good because you spend that much money on it. Don't go for the labels. Talk to everyone. That's your guard, right? That's Sylvia. I love Sylvia. That's such a great, great character to illustrate something with. Talk to these people and don't think about who they are and what their value is in the organization, how much they make, in other words, but treat it like a wine tasting. You're not biased. You're just trying it. And maybe the cheap wine is much better than something that costs much more. And maybe the one that is the most expensive, really not that good.
yeah, there's also these big consultancy companies, and I've been on the client side of these things. Yeah, they bring in the one big rainmaker. They bring in the Gary Singer of the world to close the deal, to get their foot in the door. And then they bring in a bunch of MBAs who are 26 to 32 years old, who have never served in a line capacity, who have never led people, who have never, been anything other than in a top 5 consultancy house. And they're the ones making the recommendations. And I'm sorry, you got great book knowledge, but you don't have any coalface knowledge, and that doesn't fly with me.
Well,
You're
Stephen,
great,
and then
Juice.
I'm smart enough to bring in Ron to really close the deal.
There you go.
See you guys.
He's 35,
Bye,
so
Gary.
he's been around a few years.
Well,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you, Stephen.
No, I will tell you, and Christian's diagram, the foundational part of that was the bottom, trust. And we have to be able to trust each other. As a good leader, you must develop trust. And for me, another way to say trust is I am good for my word. I want people to offer a diversity of perspective. I want for you to know that I will fairly evaluate every perspective from which I will make a choice, and I will be accountable for the choice I make based on your perspectives. But I don't discount a perspective I chose not to adopt. I value your perspective. And so in the context of open communication and valuing your opinions, I have to create that kind of a culture in my organization. And so I value and I actually encourage failure so that we can learn from and fail forward. And so I encourage all of that as a part of a culture, and we have to be able to learn from and think through each other. And every one of us on this call, Ed, Ken, Christian, Stephen, Gary, offer different strengths. And I want to choose my team accordingly. After I know your strengths, I know you will complement my gaps or weaknesses. That's what a team is all about. And again, I do want diversity of perspective. So much more that can be discussed on this. But if I'm going to offer a perspective, I have to know that my job is not going to be threatened if maybe I disagree with you.
Absolutely.
And if I know you disagree with me and we have a hierarchical type structure, guaranteed I'm not going to offer you a different opinion because my job may be at risk and I've got to have the check coming in.
Yeah.
And so I won't. And so that's all about culture. There's many hours that could be devoted to this necessarily to have the right culture, the right people functioning as a functioning team.
So I love what you just said about encouraging failure. That is like fresh air. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and Ed, it doesn't mean that we are a failure. I differentiate. I'm not trying to parse words, but failure, I tend to make that personal. Failing, well, the project didn't work out. Thomas Edison's been quoted thousands of times. I didn't find 10,000 ways that couldn't work. I mean, I didn't fail 10,000 times. I found 10,000 times that did not work until it was the 10,001st try that the light bulb worked. And so I may be the kind of person that I'd have to offer 99 different ideas before there's one idea that you believe is implementable. But if you don't accept me in my ideas, you're not going to get that one that'll take 99 different attempts to get to that one. And so that's just a part of the culture that of acceptance.
Okay. Is it okay to go to your slide now?
And my slides are very unsophisticated in that I've got bullet points. And
But at least you wrote yours. You just shared something that Ed sent me.
okay. And so now I'm going to have
Or
to,
AI did.
yeah, how do I got to learn how to share this. Can I share it based?
Yeah. My screen share is open and available. I just don't know how to work it.
Click
All
on
right.
share screen. Click
Hover
on.
and find the green button.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's the green button. And now I
Now
need
you have a
to,
selection of screens to choose from. Pick the right one, or else it might get embarrassing.
yep.
Double click it.
And okay, now share.
There you
And
go.
okay, can you see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now
Okay.
make
Yeah.
it as big as you can by going to the lower right-hand corner and cranking. Yeah, there you go.
And
There you
make
go.
it bigger for the eyeball.
There you go.
Okay. That's great.
Okay, now here's just a little bit about me. I just conscious stream of thought, what comes to mind. So
Mhm.
this was, in a matter of a few minutes putting this together. But here's the trust factor. It's foundational to being an effective leader. If you can't trust me, we're just going to, it's very possible those on my staff will be in the quiet quitting mode. If you can't trust me, hey, I'm just putting in time. I just need to get a paycheck. And I'm just here to at hopefully the start time, but I'm leaving right at the finish time. Don't ask me to do anything more. And people follow a leader that they trust. And so, and I will say that trust is a matter of largely a personality. I will tell you, between Marty, my wife, and me, I am the kind of person I want to trust everybody on this call. I want to assign you a 10 on a 10-point scale of trust, and you'll have to work your way backwards. Marty, my wife, on the other hand, she's going to start you out at a 0, and you're going to have to work your way up the scale. But there are different personalities of trust, and how quickly can we establish trust? And I will tell you, there are more than a bunch of times I have trusted a person who did not warrant that trust, but I paid the consequence as the relationship went on. And the fourth bullet down, my word is my bond. And with that, I believe that I am the kind of person, I want to be the person that if I tell you I'm going to do something, I will. And you can count on it. And if I happen to forget, for the lapse of memory or anything like that, I owe it to you to say, hey, I failed, but I will do better. And but you can always count on me to do the different things. And I will tell you that anyone who has been through a lack of trust, or let's say we call it betrayal, whatever it may be, that it will take almost always far more time to reestablish trust with that person than it took for the original trust. And so if it took a year to build trust, it may take 10 years to reestablish trust. And so if we keep that in mind, we want to do everything we can to not betray somebody. And but trust, again, requires consistency of behavior, actions, my words, it all goes together. And then a lot further down, I mean, a lot more topics on leadership. I mentioned last week, I believe that people deserve to be led well. And leaders are made or grown, they're not born. And so it's at an early age, I wouldn't have never been able to talk with you the way I am right now. And because of different things that were said in my life at an early age, that I had absolutely no confidence. But I wanted to be a leader, but I didn't think I had any attributes of being that way. But Ed, I don't want to take a lot of time, but these are just some of my thoughts, and we can go into any depth at all at a later time.
I thank you very much. This will become a permanent part of this program on the streaming version, which will be available in 24 hours or less. And I thank you guys for being on this program. It was Harvard for me. This is great. Learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Well, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good talking.
Take care, everyone.
All
Bye.
right.
Be
Have a good
well.
one. Bye-bye. Thank you.